Liz is still trying to convince C to let her go help her sister, since Chittori can't fight on her own. The cry tells her that Shori will be fine, so he's not letting Liz leave. Meanwhile, Flick receives word that Sophia wants them to send out the mutated monsters one by one. But that sounds stupid to him, as it'll just make it easier to defeat the phantoms. He orders the others to contact her immediately and asks why she gave such a ridiculous order. Unfortunately, she went out to inspect her defense system and isn't responding to their calls. Magus gave Sophia full authority to command the Akashic Tower's forces, so they are meant to follow her instructions. However, this battle is going to be their last stand against the Association, and they can't afford to lose just because Sophia gave some nonsensical instructions. Therefore, Flick decides that they are going to completely ignore Sophia's orders and send the monsters out all at once, because what's the worst that could happen? Back at the Association camp, the two members who were captured are being interrogated by Chittori. She wants to be diplomatic, so she asks them nicely to give up the location of their boss, so he can be taken down easily. However, the members remain devoted to their cause, refusing to snitch. Chittori already knew there was no way these guys would just tell her what she wants to know, which is why she brought a potion that should make them a little more willing to snitch. She is about to force-feed them the potion, but the officials present immediately stop her because that is clearly a brainwashing potion. It messes with consciousness, can erase memories, or even force people to become obedient slaves. Consequently, it was banned years ago, and if Chittori has it in her possession, she's basically guilty of a war crime. Gar chimes in, saying he understands that Chittori wants to get answers as soon as possible, but the Association isn't a criminal organization, so war crimes are not okay. Chittori apologizes, saying it was just a misunderstanding. However, since even possessing the brainwashing potion could get her in a lot of trouble, she decides to drink it to destroy the evidence. Everyone is shocked that she would do something like that, but she's pretty much immune to all potion effects, so she'll be fine. She's far more concerned by the fact that the enemy has started making their move. Another giant slime monster is headed their way. Sven asks Chittori how they should deal with it, and she tells him that there are several different magic barriers that the monster could have. They need to figure out what element is effective against this particular one. She orders the hunters with shields to stand at the front and try to block the monster's attack so they can determine what kind of force field it is using. She is well aware of how dangerous this is, so she tells the shield guy to let go of the shield as soon as it makes contact with the monster, so he doesn't end up getting killed. He braces himself and follows Chittori's orders. The second the monster touches his shield, it gets flung away along with a good chunk of his arm. Chittori then asks the mages to slow it down with some magical attacks, but all the fireballs they shoot at it end up getting deflected, so Chittori deduces that the monster must have a form of revolving force field that blows things away with a single touch. That means M-fighters stand no chance against it, so despite his strength, Gar is pretty much useless here. He asks if they should just pull back and wait for it to run out of mana, but Chittori tells him that won't work because, with the amount of mana material this thing already has, it could easily keep rampaging for another hour or so. She theorizes that they should be able to break through the monster's barrier if they concentrate a strong enough attack on it, but that's going to be tricky to pull off since none of the mages present are strong enough to manage that. Just then, another slime monster appears, and all the association members start to get really worried since they can't handle two monsters at once. However, Chittori tells them they can just pull back for now because it looks like the people in the Akashic Tower are complete idiots. All of a sudden, the red monster loses interest in the hunters and turns to the blue monster. Then the two monsters just start boxing. Gar doesn't understand what's going on, so Chittori explains to him that the only reason the monsters attack hunters is to replenish their depleting mana material using the hunter's mana material. If they are presented with another monster made of pure mana material, they will naturally attack it instead. So sending out all the slime monsters at once was an incredibly stupid decision. While all the slime monsters fight amongst themselves, Magus holds a meeting with the members of the Akashic Tower. He remembers specifically telling Flick that Sophia's instructions were to be obeyed no matter what. Yet Flick went and acted on his own, causing them to waste all their slime mutant potions. Sophia is especially pissed that he thought he could come up with a better plan than her with his rude temper IQ. Flick is seething with rage at her insult, but he can't argue with her because it was entirely his fault. Magus decides to forgive Flick's incompetence and says it's fine since the slime monsters weren't the only weapons they had in their arsenal. However, he isn't sure how to proceed from here, so he asks Sophia if she has any good ideas, Sophia tells him that the situation has changed since not only has Shitori shown up on the battlefield, but Gar, a former level 7 hunter, has appeared as well. While he may have been retired for a long time, he is without a doubt still one of the true heroes. Now that they've lost the slime monsters because of a certain idiot, fighting this battle is going to be a lot tougher than it otherwise should have been. Plus, 2 of their members have been captured, so it won't be long before Shitori gets them to talk. Flick yells that those 2 are loyal members of the Akashic Tower, so there's no way they would ever snitch. As much as Sophia wants to believe that, those 2 are pretty dumb, and Shitori has several methods to extract information. Even if she doesn't commit any war crimes to get a confession, she will still be able to track down their base sooner or later. So the only way they can win is by making the first move. Sophia suggests that they use the malice eaters they have to overpower the hunters, and then they'll draw the survivors into their reach and wipe them out using a trump card. Megas thinks this is a good idea, but the malice eaters are still only partially trained, so they would need someone to go out there and command them. Sophia suggests that Flick should do it since he needs to make up for his previous mistake. Flick is once again seething with rage, but he can't refuse, so he promises that he will achieve good results this time. Back at the association camp, Talia thinks about Shitori and how she has been a natural genius from day one, always doing whatever it takes to reach the truth, no matter how difficult or borderline illegal it may be. Talia respects Shitori's skill, but she also slightly fears the things Shitori is capable of and is jealous that she will never be able to achieve the same things. As she is walking, Talia ends up bumping into Sven, and he starts a conversation with her about the monster they faced earlier that day. It's a shame that the anti-slime potion she brought wasn't effective, but it couldn't be helped since they didn't know that the monster would be an artificial slime creature. He doesn't want her to feel bad about it. Talia tells him she's fine, but there's something else Sven has been wondering about, because those 2 Akashic Tower members keep staring at her. So he asks her if there's a reason for it. Talia says she has no idea why they would care about her, so Sven assumes it must just be because she has very distinctive red hair. A little while later, Gar goes over to Shitori, who has been hard at work all night, and tells her that she doesn't need to push herself so much because, at the end of the day, this is just an investigation. Even if they don't find the Akashic Tower hideout right away, they can always come back to finish the job later. However, before Gar is even done speaking, Shitori tells him that she has figured out the general location of the Akashic Tower. A meeting is called, and everyone is gathered so Shitori can relay the conclusion she reached based on the position of the mana lines and the locations where the slime monsters appeared. She deduced that the base of the Akashic Tower must be somewhere over here in the cliffs. She turns and asks the prisoners if she's correct, and those 2 would be terrible at poker because they start frantically telling Shitori that she's wrong. But that just confirms that she's headed in the right direction. Now that they know where the base is, Shitori suggests that they could make the first move and attack before the Akashic Tower manages to escape. The Akashic Tower prisoners start yelling for Sophia to hurry up and get them out of there because they can't let the hunters make it to their base. However, this is the first time any of the hunters have heard of Sophia, so they wonder who she is. Shitori explains that Sophia is basically her archenemy. No matter how many times Shitori has tried to find her, she always manages to evade capture. As much as she hates to admit it, Sophia is a brilliant alchemist. So if she's not stopped, alongside Megas, this kind of research will never end. The 2 prisoners tell Shitori that Sophia would never lose to her because, while they may not like her, they acknowledge that Sophia is incredibly skilled. So a level 2 failure like Shitori would stand no chance against her. Shitori doesn't deny that she is a failure, but that is precisely why she wants to do whatever it takes to make up for her previous mistakes and send Sophia to prison. Elsewhere in the forest, Craig, Liz, and Tino are walking towards the White Wolf Den, and it looks like Liz has finally convinced him to get involved. She urges him to hurry up so they can help before Shitori gets killed, but Craig doesn't think he needs to worry about Shitori. If anything, he is more worried about his own life, because he didn't have time to charge most of his relics, and he is completely out of safety rings. So he will die if he gets hit even once. Tino tells him that they are getting close to the White Wolf Den, but it's so dark that Craig can barely see anything, so he has no idea where they are. Tino tries to use the opportunity to hold Craig's hand, but Liz absolutely refuses to let anyone aside from her touch Craig. Back with the investigation group, Shitori lets Gain know that Craig said he wasn't going to be able to come help, and Gain is a little disappointed since he was hoping to get the chance to meet him now that he understands how great Craig truly is. Shitori tells Gain that Craig is pretty much the best hunter in the world, and she wouldn't be surprised if he someday managed to make it to level 10. Just then, the roar of thunder fills the air, and in the next second, a bolt of lightning is sent straight at Shitori and the rest of the squad. The one responsible for this is Flick, and he is really proud of himself for defeating all the hunters, so much so that he leaves his advantageous high ground and heads down to the floor to gloat over the incapacitated bodies of the hunters. However, that decision was stupid because Shitori was completely unharmed by his blast. She hadn't thought anyone from the tower would be reckless enough to use an area of effect spell when they have hostages, but it looks like she was wrong. Flick can't believe she is still standing after getting hit with his thunder attack, but she has to deal with spells of that level frequently when she goes on hunts with the rest of the grieving souls, so she always has countermeasures ready just in case. She also carries a healing gun for the same reason, so she shoots Sven to help him recover. Once he's back on his feet, he charges straight for Flick. It doesn't take much to knock Flick out, but the Malice Eater is way tougher, so Sven gets knocked down. Just before the monster could kill him, Guard jumps in and finishes it off with one blow. Once news of this reaches Magus, he is more enraged than ever, because Sophia told Flick to attack using all the Malice Eaters, yet he still disobeyed and took only one. Just like Flick's parents, Magus is greatly disappointed in him. The rest of the Akashic Tower members tell him that he must flee before the hunters get here because his valuable research must be continued, but Magus insists on staying because they still have their secret weapon, Akasha. Besides, as their leader, it's his duty to fight alongside them until the bitter end. Meanwhile, the investigation team has finally arrived outside the cave where the Akashic Tower base is located, and they plan to go in and attack before the Akashic Tower has a chance to strike them. So Stran and Shitori will be relying on Guard